Salute everybody. Salute. I want to welcome everybody to this demonstration. Breaking news. The United States is tracking Russian warheads. Yeah, y'all. I don't know if y'all been paying attention, but it's getting serious. It's getting serious. There's been some flooding going on in Miami. We got a lot to talk about in this demonstration. We got a lot to talk about in this demonstration. Do y'all feel as if the things that's been going on, like with the P. Diddy, the Jaguar Wright, and these other celebrities and social media influencers, do y'all think that there's some kind of conspiracy there? So let me read my disclaimer, and then we're going to jump into this demonstration. Breaking news. The United States is tracking Russian warheads. Salute, Abdul. I see you, Abdul. Salute. Let me read my disclaimer. And then we're going to jump into this demonstration. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Everything that you hear in this demonstration is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everything that you hear in this demonstration is allegedly. Let me salute everybody, and we're going to jump into this demonstration. Salute Spoken Facts. I see you, Spoken Facts. Salute. Salute Leslie. Salute Leslie. Salute Sages. Salute Sages. Salute Abdul. I see you. I see you, Abdul. I'm sure your homegirl, Beautiful Nightmare, be pulling up soon, and positive vibes. So I know y'all going to be roasting me. Abdul says, World War III, here we come. Transformers protect us from the evil. We're going to need some kind of protection. We're going to need some kind of protection, Abdul. So I want to salute everybody on the replay gang. I really appreciate y'all for watching the demonstrations on replay. Salute to all my moderators. Salute to everybody that's watching from the clouds. Salute to those that are in my bushes. I just wish that y'all would just do the respectful thing and the honorable thing. Instead of being in my bushes, just drop down in the chat. I mean, because to be in my bushes, that's some stalking type stuff. You know what I mean? It's okay. It's okay to drop down out of my bushes. I don't have no problem with y'all. For those that are in my bushes, I'm somewhere else in life. You know what I mean? I ain't on that. So it's okay to drop down out of my bushes. Do the respectful thing and come out of my bushes and just participate in the chat. But salute to all my new subscribers. Salute to everybody that's checking in from other countries. Salute you, him, and her. Salute the whole Rock Squad. Abdul says, Baldy, you the savior. You got to protect us now. I'm trying to be the savior. I'm trying to protect y'all. Yeah, so what do y'all think of this? Salute the full life. Salute everybody. Spoken Facts, Sages, Abdul. What do y'all think of this? Monica, I see you, Monica. Salute, Monica. Salute. Leslie, what do y'all think of this? These warheads that Russia has. What's going on? If y'all want to know what I'm drinking, Smart Water. Smart Water is good to balance out your electrolytes. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Do y'all think it's a conspiracy going on? Do y'all think that we are ready for war?
The Pentagon began monitoring. The Pentagon.
Abdul says, my thoughts are, appreciate that super chat, the full life. Appreciate that super chat, the full life. Abdul says, my thoughts are we better start building our bunkers and start saving our tissues and waters. Spoken Fact says, as long as it's not Fiji water, it's been recalled. It's like everything is recalled. Did y'all see the cucumbers? I seen a demonstration about cucumbers. They saying that the cucumbers that you get from those organic stores and everything, I've heard that the cucumbers aren't real. I heard that the foods that's supposed to be organic foods aren't really organic foods. Appreciate that super sticker for life. Appreciate that sticker for life. Your salute your Yaraka. There you go. Salute Yaraka. Salute Yaraka. Spoken Fact says, I read on this today. They reported that there is not a threat of nuclear weapons. Also, they are trying to act like it is not a threat to the U.S. Salute Londa. Salute Londa. Appreciate you for pulling up. So what does that say, Spoken Facts? What does that say? Like, you read up on it. What does that say? Salute Tammy. Appreciate you for coming, Tammy. Tammy is definitely a part of that replay gang. I'll be catching all your comments, Tammy. I'm going to get around to answering your comments. But salute to Tammy. I'm going to say, well, I got to be careful what I say because I don't want to offend nobody. But a big shout out to Tammy from the replay gang. Tammy will be in the replay all the time. Spoken Fact says organic foods are not really organic and also are not made in the U.S. It is made in China. That's sad. Salute, Tracy. Appreciate you for pulling up, Tracy. And I read that today. Matter of fact, y'all, it's true. And just to think, you spend all that money on the organic food, and the organic food is really not organic. That organic food that we pay all that money for is actually made in China. Now, one thing I will say, I feel better. I feel different when I eat the organic foods. I will say that. And I would always question myself. And I would be like, Shane, what if this food really isn't organic food? How can we tell? Because we really can't tell. Spoken Fact says organic is not. Spoken Fact says organic is not organic unless you grow it yourself. Start planting, people. Yes. Yes. Abdul says that part spoken. Tammy says, I be trying to catch you, Shank, but I be just getting off when you do the live. But look, as long as I see you on the replay game, Tammy, I be like, yes, yes, Tammy is here. Tammy be like, replay gang, replay gang. But I appreciate you, Tammy. But we gonna spend some time. We're gonna spend some time on this demonstration. And the Rock Squad member that actually sent me this demonstration, I appreciate you for sending me this demonstration. She said, Shank, she said, everybody is focusing on other things, but look at this. And I said, you know what? I said, that's something that we need to speak on. So this demonstration was actually passed on to me by a Rock Squad member. And if that Rock Squad member want to let it be known, then that's fine. Because some of y'all don't want to be known for sending me demonstrations and things of that nature. And that's fine. That's fine. But it was a Rock Squad member that asked me to cover this. Salute, Tommy. I see you, Tommy. Salute, Tommy. Salute. So we're going to have to start, believe it or not. Appreciate that spoken facts. Appreciate that spoken facts. We're going to have to, let me see if I can put this up. No. Appreciate that super chat, spoken facts. We're going to have to live off, and if we don't know, it's coming to that point. First of all, how many of y'all are ready? How many of y'all are ready? Sagitt says we don't need war, Shank. I've not even started my life yet. Right, I agree with you, Sagitt. But how many of y'all think that y'all are ready if a war breaks out? Because if a war break out, all kind of things can take place. Our way of living will definitely be jeopardized. And if you're not used to, like, believe it or not, some of us haven't had an actual home cooked meal in years. Years. Salute Aunt Esther. Aunt Esther says, I'm ready. Abdul says, I haven't started my life yet either. Right. And for the young folks like Abdul and Sagitt, they haven't even started their life yet. So what is that to say? Like for me, I've been around. There's still a whole lot to life that I haven't experienced. But I've experienced some things. But there's still a whole lot that I haven't experienced. Abdul says, all I know is I'm not going to the military anyway. Sagitt says, which is why we don't need it. I believe, and y'all can, voice y'all opinions. But honestly, before a change can take place, me personal, and that's just my personal thoughts and my personal opinion. Before a change can take place, I do think that war has to come. I think that war is necessary. Sometimes you have to take the opposition, your ops, the enemy. Sometimes you have to take them to war. Now, there's going to be casualties in war. There's going to be casualties in war. Esther says, if it comes down to every person to save themselves, you better fight. Tommy says, right. Abdul says that part on Esther. But that's where we're headed, because let's just be honest, y'all. Let's be honest. As great of a country that America is to some people, because America is not great to everybody. America has never been great to a lot of people. But on the other hand, America is great to some people. Now, in my opinion, I think America can become great. I think the country can become great. I think that America can be a mixing pot. I think the country can be a mixing pot. And I think the country can be great for all of us. And that's the problem that America has. That's the problem that America has been running into when America first got established. America is not for everyone. It's not. So I believe that if America can get out of her own way And that's going to be the powers to be. If they could get out of their own way, now I don't know if they will, but if America can get out of her own way, this country could be great. It definitely could be great. Leslie says, we got grandbabies. Sagitt says, do we need war for peace to reign? In my opinion, yes. Yes, Sagitt, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And I'm going to back it up. Biblical scriptures. Esther says, America isn't exempt, nor is America is innocent. And that's facts. Now, according to the scriptures, it talk about the second coming of Christ. For all my biblical scholars, for everybody that knows the Bible. And I'm not going to take this out of content. I'm just going to give it to y'all exactly for what it says. And then y'all could build off of it. But according to the scriptures, I believe it was Revelations. And they said when they saw the Son of Man, they said they saw the Son of Man, and the Son of Man had a sword. And it was blood dripping from the sword. Now, I'm going to leave it right there, and y'all can decide what y'all want to take out of that. It says it's seen the second coming of Christ, and he had a sword in his hand, and the sword was dripping blood. I'll let y'all decide on what y'all think that means. Salute Sharon. Sharon says, yes, Shank Rock. The greens, peppers, tomatoes, zucchini, cucumbers, beets, green beans are growing well, and our garden planning to can. Yes, yes, and that's what we're going to have to get to that, because we don't know what we are buying. We just don't know. Yeah, it says a sword. And if I'm wrong, if y'all know the scripture, if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. But it speaks on the second coming of Christ. Seen him with a sword. And it was blood dripping from the sword. You know, Christ ain't coming to play with us. For those that believe in Jesus Christ. You know, Christ ain't coming to play with us. But war, in my opinion, is necessary. Sometimes you have to take your opponent to war. We all grow up. We all been young before. And I have been confronted with a bully. I know all of y'all have been confronted with a bully. We've all of us. And whether we wanted to fight the bully or not, whether we wanted to fight back or not, most of us in our minds picture, I know this bully is going to whip my ass, but I got to take this bully to war. I got to stand up for myself. So war is necessary sometimes. If you're being bullied, war is necessary. And you could wage war on your eye according to how you choose to. I learned that it's more than one way to skin a cat. So it's up to you. Salute Suntan. Suntan says, just passing through, been missing the live. Appreciate you, Suntan. Appreciate you for pulling up. Abdul says, oh, yes, Shank, I confronted many bullies in my time. So you know where I'm coming from, Abdul. And that's where we're at now. It is what it is. Now, we're going to get into the Warheads. And we're going to get into what's out there. We're going to get into the United States tracking them and things of that nature, you know. Let's get into it, y'all. Tommy says, yes, indeed, bro. All right, y'all. Let's get into it. Salute Leslie. Leslie says, the kingdom suffered violence, and the violence take it by force. That's the word. Let's jump into this, y'all.
began monitoring the 4 Russian warships as they crossed the Atlantic and conducted live fire exercises intended to simulate an attack on enemy ships. Early Wednesday, Russian warships were seen entering the port of Havana. Echoes of the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962, when Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev reached a secret deal with Fidel Castro to place Soviet nuclear missiles 90 miles from Key West, Florida.
A series of offensive missile sites.
President Kennedy ordered a naval quarantine. It was the closest the two countries had ever come to nuclear war. On Tuesday, Russian warships sailed less than 30 miles off Florida's south coast. Ships from the U.S. Second Fleet, U.S. Fourth Fleet, and U.S. Coast Guard Atlantic area shadowed them. U.S. intelligence assesses there are no nuclear weapons on board these ships, but the Russian flotilla does include the Kazan nuclear-powered submarine. The Pentagon downplayed the provocative exercises in its backyard.
This is not a surprise. We've seen them do these type of port calls before. We, of course, take it seriously, but these exercises don't pose a threat to the United States.
Let's stop right there, y'all. Abdul says, Shank, I saw yesterday that World War III might happen on June the 18th of this year. Now, what do y'all think? She like downplaying it. Let me backtrack it, y'all. Let's backtrack it. She ain't taking it serious. The Pentagon, and it's the Pentagon. It's coming from the Pentagon. Now, they not taking it serious. What do y'all think? Let's backtrack.
Nuclear-powered submarine. The Pentagon downplayed the provocative exercises in its backyard.
This is not a surprise. We've seen them do these type of port calls before. We, of course, take it seriously, but these exercises don't pose a threat to the United States.
In Moscow, Russia's foreign minister thanked his Cuban counterpart for taking Russia's side in Ukraine.
We are grateful to our Cuban friends for their principled position on the situation around Ukraine. From the very beginning, Havana assessed the ongoing events outlining absolutely correct.
It's notable that Russia did not send its only aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov, to Cuba. It's currently out of service. Also notable that Ukraine has sunk nearly half of Russia's Black Sea fleet in the past 2 years, including a prize submarine. At the Pentagon, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
What y'all think, Rock Squad? What y'all think? According to the Pentagon, they've seen this play several times. Abdul says, I think she's working with them. Sorry, not sorry. How many of y'all feel like Abdul? Do y'all think she's working with them? Now, I will say that there's always been talks of war, especially World War III. They've from as long as I can remember, it's always been talk of World War III. Salute Trump in the good old days. Says Trump has did many amazing things to help the darks vote Trump. Let's try to stay on topic, y'all. I don't mind y'all talking about Trump. I don't mind y'all talking about Biden. I don't mind y'all talking about any of that. That's fine. But let's just try to stay on topic. The topic is about the warheads. These warheads. Salute Positive Vibes. Appreciate you for pulling up. I don't mind y'all speaking about Trump, Biden, and the presidents and all of that, but let's try to stay on topic. So if you want to talk about Trump, kind of like align it up with these warheads. If you want to talk about Biden, try to align it up with the warheads. Did Trump mention anything about the warheads? Have Biden mentioned anything about the warheads? Like that, you know, just let's not just come and let's not just straight campaign for Trump, even though I don't have no problem with Trump. And let's not just come straight campaigning for Biden. Let's kind of keep our comments pacific. So if it's something that Trump said pertaining to the warheads, fine. If it's something that Biden said, fine. All right. So as I was saying, there's always been talks of World War III. Since I was a little kid, y'all know World War III get ready to happen. In the Bible, it talks about the last days. Now, many people have different theories and different perspectives on exactly what the last days mean. Some people feel like the last day is the end of time. Some people feel like the earth is going to blow up. Well, time has no beginning, time has no end. You know, now, if y'all don't believe that, that's fine. But salute, beautiful night, man. Salute, beautiful night, man. Time has no beginning, time has no end. You know, and as far as the world exploding, the last time I checked, God said that he would not destroy. I think the last time he destroyed. And another thing, when God talks about the world, when we hear people mention the world, they're mentioning certain societies. They're mentioning certain countries. It's not pertaining to the whole world, because believe it or not, it's countries that we don't even know that's out there. It's planets, it's people out there that we don't even know exist. I'm trying to keep up with y'all comments. Esther says Russia, in all honesty, shouldn't have been on our coast of Florida with warheads. Does America do those intimidating tactics to a Russia? No, that's what I was saying, Esther. And for the Pentagon, and y'all heard her, they're not really taking it serious. What do you mean you ain't taking it serious? Oh, we seen this play before. This has happened before. I'm like, but you not taking it serious? I'm with you, Esther. Salute John. Salute John. John says, he says the world will burn up in fire. Okay, okay. He said he wasn't going to destroy the world, no more of water. I believe, and y'all help me if I'm wrong. Esther says, I smell something coming soon. John says he said he would never destroy the world again in a flood. Okay, okay. And that's what he said. So help me understand about these warheads. John says Ukraine is on Russia's border. Because as Esther said, you don't see us with no ships. You don't see us over there nowhere near Russia. Russia shoot it down. Russia will eliminate it. Let me go to this other thing that I got, y'all. Okay, now this is something. Now this is something new. This is fresh off the press. Now this is a message to Russia. Biden and Zelensky to sign security deal. Let's check this out and see what we could get out of this, y'all. Let's see if we could get some kind of understanding out of this. Now this is fresh off the press. This is 47 minutes ago. Let's see if we can get anything out of this that might give us some better understanding of these warheads.
Gutierrez is traveling with the president in Italy. Evelyn Farkas is a former senior advisor to the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia and Ukraine, and the Executive Director of the McCain Institute. And David Ignatius is foreign columnist and associated editor of the Washington Post, as well as an MSNBC contributor. So, Gabe, can you give us more details on what is happening in Italy, what this deal does and doesn't do?
Good afternoon, Jose. Well, this deal is meant to send a strong message to Russia, and it comes just a day after the U.S. expanded sanctions against Russia. Now, as you alluded to, this is meant to show a commitment to Ukraine over the next 10 years, and the U.S. is promising to train and equip Ukraine's military. Now, what it is not doing, Jose, is committing U.S. troops to go into Ukrainian territory at any point to defend it. But again, this is an executive agreement, a bilateral security agreement, being signed by President Biden in just a short time here within the hour. Ukrainian President Zelensky and him are set to hold a joint press conference on that.
So, Evelyn, no guarantee of more aid. What is the value of this agreement?
Well, Jose, I think that if you look beyond the money, and maybe we'll get into other sources of money that Ukraine will now have access to, it means that the United States will be directed by the executive branch to help Ukraine build its defense industry. That actually, in the bureaucratic world, does mean something. It lifts up a lot of restrictions on maybe technology sharing, and may provide also some additional boost to investors. They may also have to go through U.S. investment channels, so our DFC, but which is a bank that provides loans to companies that want to invest and do business in places like Ukraine. So I think that it is actually significant, and obviously the political signal that we are saying, we are committed to Ukraine regardless of whether they are a member of NATO.
A very strong political message, no doubt. David, how is the reality on the ground in Ukraine years into this Russian attack into that homeland?
So the situation increasingly returns to one of stalemate. The Russians appeared to be on the offensive in the long period when Ukraine was waiting for U.S. arms to arrive after the House of Representatives delayed approval of those arms. Now that they're arriving, now that the U.S. has eased restrictions on how Ukraine can use them, Ukraine can now fire them into Russian, some weapons into Russian territory, it appears that the Russian offensive is slowed. Most reports from the front describe that. At the same time, Ukraine is using the new weapons it has, especially the ATACMS and missiles, to attack aggressively Russian-occupied Crimea. So we're in a situation where, again, the two sides, at enormous cost, are fighting it out without much gain on the ground either way. I think the agreement that President Biden is signing with President Zelensky is symbolism, but it's important symbolism. It's a message to Ukrainians who are bloodied by this war so severely that the United States remains with them. There's a sense of continuity. And it's a message to Russia. Don't assume you can wait this out. Don't assume that you can just wait for Donald Trump to be elected or the American public to become exhausted with the war, because here's a...
Did y'all hear that? Now, why was the United States, why did we get involved in the Ukraine and Russia conflict? Why did we get involved? Now, did y'all hear him mention about Trump? Why are they waiting? Let me backtrack it, y'all. Let's backtrack.
By this war so severely that the United States remains with them. There's a sense of continuity. And it's a message to Russia. Don't assume you can wait this out. Don't assume that you can just wait for Donald Trump to be elected or the American public to become exhausted with the war, because here's a...
So, two things were said as far as on Russia's behalf. Now, are they waiting for Donald Trump to get in office because many believe that Donald Trump was in bed with Russia? Or they going to wait it out and ride it out until the American people get exhausted? Y'all let me know. Or could it not be either one? Could it not be either one? Could Russia be waiting for Trump to get in office? Because Russia may feel as though when Trump get in office, that's to their advantage. What do y'all think? Drop a 1 if y'all think that. Possibility Russia could be waiting for Trump to get back in office so Russia can have an advantage. Positive Vibe says, till the Americans get tired. Okay, so Positive Vibe says, till the Americans get tired. Drop a 2 if y'all feel like Positive Vibes. As far as Russia is just trying to hold out until the American people get tired. Drop a 2 or drop a 1 if you think it's because Russia is waiting for Trump to get back in office.
By this war so severely that the United States remains with them. There's a sense of continuity. And it's a message to Russia. Don't assume you can wait this out. Don't assume that you can just wait for Donald Trump to be elected or the American public to become exhausted with the war, because here's a commitment, executive order, yes, but like the military commitments we have with many countries around the world who are allies, not formal treaty allies, but have military relationships with us just the same. Ukraine now has one formally, and I think in that sense, it's important symbolism.
And David, just wondering, I mean, the losses that Russia has been taking for a long time now, I mean, some say maybe up to 1,000 losses per day in this campaign. Is this something that Putin can continue having without any cost?
So, Jose, it's a meat grinder for both sides. The most recent U.S. estimates are over 350,000 Russian dead and wounded in this war over 2 years.
That's a lot of people, y'all. That's a lot of people. Did y'all hear the number of Russian people that have lost their lives since this war started? That's a lot of people.
Having without any cost?
So, Jose, it's a meat grinder for both sides. The most recent U.S. estimates are over 350,000 Russian dead and wounded.
350,000 Russian people wounded and dead. 350,000. That's a lot of casualties, y'all. That's a lot of casualties.
In this war over 2 years, Putin seems to be able to sustain the war. He was reelected, but the polls suggest he's probably more popular now than when the war began. There is a point at which the Russians become exhausted, but there's no sign that it's been reached yet. There were, interestingly, some financial troubles in Moscow financial markets today. If life gets much more difficult for the average Russian in Moscow or St. Petersburg, maybe you'll see the beginning of a popular rebellion against the policy, but I don't see any sign of that yet.
Yeah, I mean, Evelyn, you were talking about this, the very strong messages that are coming out of the G7 meeting vis-a-vis Russia, the messages of, you know, do not, for example, even expanding some sanctions on Russia. However, Russia is really, their reaction, for example, they just sent ships, 3 military ships and a Russian nuclear submarine to Cuba. Moscow says it's armed with the new top-of-the-line hypersonic missiles, these 3 ships are, and they're just, you know, right off the coast of Florida soon. What does it tell you about Russia's geopolitical strategy right now?
Well, I think, Jose, to kind of echo or underscore what my very smart friend David Ignatius just said about the situation in Russia, it doesn't look very good. Vladimir Putin is clearly very upset about a couple of things. First, the fact that we now, took away the restrictions that we had placed on the use of the weaponry we were providing the Ukrainians, so that they can now use them to attack valid military targets inside of Russia. And, we are now providing them with this political reassurance and this very public sign of support.
Let me ask y'all this. Salute Sagas. Sagas dropped the 1. Salute Snapping Turtle. Salute Snapping Turtle. Let me ask y'all this. Should we have stayed out of the Russia and Ukraine war? What do y'all think? Do y'all think that we should have just stayed out of it? Sag just says Putin can wait, and what equipment we gave Ukraine won't do much. Esther says, so what if Russia put warships in Cuba and war submarines off Florida's coast? Seems like they ready to fight NATO from all angles. I agree. And we're going to go to, because Miami has been hit with a major flood. Do y'all realize South Florida has been flooded? We're going to go to that after this. So is that a part of it? We don't know. Let's go to some more.
Vladimir Putin got so mad that, yes, he sent warships to Cuba. And that is actually an escalation from the past. When I was in the Pentagon in 2014, 2015, it wasn't uncommon to see Russia sending spy ships, intelligence gathering ships, to even the U.S. coast. So in 2014, 2015, after the Crimea invasion and our robust response, the Russians sent an intelligence gathering ship, a small group of ships off the coast of Florida. They lingered there for quite some time. This is an escalation because these are warships. The other quick thing I want to mention is that today they announced that they're indicting Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter that they have jailed, imprisoned with no right to trial thus far, and of course he won't get a free trial. They're calling him a spy. So that's another thing that happened today. Again, more evidence that Putin doesn't like this, and he's basically not doing very well. This is not welcome for him.
You know, David, I'm just wondering your thoughts on this. I mean, one immediately when one hears, ships and warships thinks of October 1962 and certainly the 13 days that RFK wrote about.
Saget says the missiles that Russia has in Florida can reach up to South Carolina. Wow. Salute Kristen. Kristen says, should we be in Israel? Kristen also says, welcome to America. See, America. We're going to talk about America, y'all. Let's wrap this up with this, and then we're going to go to the flooding in South Florida. We're going to talk about America, y'all. And I want everybody to be transparent. We need to talk about America.
But it's a clear message from Putin that this is something that is happening right at the...
Okay, Snapping Turtle says Ukraine is an ally of the United. We had to help them. All right.
U.S. back door.
So, Jose, I think you got it exactly right. This is a deliberate attempt to evoke the most serious crisis in terms of nuclear confrontation in Cold War history, the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Putin has done very deliberately, just as he and former President Medvedev keep speaking about the possible use of tactical nuclear weapons. They're trying to intimidate the United States and Europe by throwing up the specter that this could escalate into a nuclear conflict. That's part of Russia's strategy. I think increasingly, as U.S. officials watch this, they're skeptical that Russia really will take these steps. I mean, for goodness sakes, Russia's having trouble even moving west in Ukraine, a tiny country. Does it really propose to take on the United States and Europe in some major conflict that would escalate up to nuclear war? There's an aspect of this, I think, that really is, as we said earlier, theater. It's meant to frighten. It's meant to break resolve.
Tommy says, if the U.S. would have stayed out of this, the war would have never happened. Esther says, didn't I say Russia is implementing intimidating tactics on America? How many of y'all feel like Tommy feel? If the U.S. didn't get involved, then there would never have been a war. Cat, salute Cat. Appreciate you for pulling up, Cat. Cat says, nah. This is all on Putin ops Putin. How do y'all feel about this? Was it worth us getting into this war? Okay? And also, just because you may be allies with somebody, do that means to get involved? I mean, when does the line get drawn is what I'm trying to say. When does the line get drawn? Or is it that America is in bed with so many different countries that it's hard for America not to get involved? Positive Vibe says Biden should have minded his business. See, and that's what I'm saying. Now, there's a lot of talk about Trump, but how do y'all feel if Trump was in office? Do y'all think that war between Ukraine and Russia would be going on? Do y'all think we would have got involved? Kristen says, draw the line and take care of home. That's facts. That's facts. I'll debate with anybody about that, Kristen. That's facts. Draw the line and take care of home. Tommy says, exactly, positive vibes, if Joe Biden had minded his business. Esther says, it was Ukraine war. America doesn't stay out of other countries' business. It's like, yo, I can't help you. You get where I'm coming from? It's like, and I'm sure we all been in situations like that when, especially when we was growing up, and you know, you had that one friend, or you had that one ally, or somebody that you might have been cool with, and they kept you in shit. And you, at the while, you just be like, man, look, man, I'm getting tired of getting hit over the goddamn head. I'm getting tired of getting my knuckles all scraped up and bloody up. I'm tired of going to jail behind your ass. Man, I'm tired of getting kneed in the balls by these girls you keep messing with. Y'all get what I'm saying? After a while, you just get tired. Kristen says, you said my name right. Okay. Appreciate that, Kristen. Where you checking in from, Kristen? Where you checking in from, Kristen? What part of the world you checking in from? Positive Vibes says, if Russia attacks us, we going to be messed up. Biden going to be hiding in the bunker under the White House, probably forgetting what's going on. And I agree with that, Positive Vibes. And I'm going to come right back after I read these comments. Tommy says, definitely would not have got involved if Trump was still in office. Remember, Trump was the reason why it didn't happen in the first place. He wouldn't get involved. Leslie says, sometimes other folks' fight is not our battles. Everybody's fight is not your fight. Kristen says, from Jersey, living in North Carolina. Okay, where all my people from Jersey at? Where all my people from Jersey at? Salute to Mill says, hi from Somerset. Okay, we got somebody checking in from Ukraine. You're welcome to check in. You're welcome to comment with us. Help us better understand this, 10 Mill, when it comes to the Ukraine in UK. Okay, that's the United Kingdom. My bad. I'm thinking you meant Ukraine. My bad. Let me come back to positives comment. If Russia attacks us, see, this the one thing as the American people, what we got to realize, all right? Whether our military is strong or not, whether we can go to war with this country and that country, whether we can walk around with our chests on swole like we the baddest country on the planet, one thing that y'all got to understand, when the missiles get to flying this way, when the nuclear bombs and whatever else come our way, if they militaries, if they pull up out of nowhere, y'all got to understand, it's the American people that's going to suffer. We are not ready for war. We're not. The American people is not ready for war. Why? Because the American people, for many years, we have been living a comfortable lifestyle. Like I said, right now, if the country have to resort back to living off of the earth, how many of us will make it? Somebody answer that question for me. If the country, if we had to resort back to living off of the land, growing our foods, attending to cattle, raising cattle, how many of us know how to raise chickens? We eat the damn chicken every day, but how many of us know how to raise chickens? How many of us know how to grow? How many of us know how to plant? I'm just asking. I'm asking for a friend. Salute to all my people checking in from Ohio. I see you, TBD, and the things. Salute to everybody checking in from Ohio. TBD says UA is Ukraine. Okay, UA. Okay, appreciate that. Kristen says, love your energy. You radiate. Appreciate that, Kristen. Appreciate that. Esther says, I agree with that too. Positive vibes. They got doomsday bunkers to save themselves. We just like the innocent sheep. That's facts. Beautiful roasting me as always. Your head shining, Shank. That's fact. See, they got bunkers. The ones that starts the wars, the ones that get us in war, they got bunkers. When the war kick off, we don't. We don't. We sitting ducks. We wide open sheep. Cat says, or the ones that own land will prosper. Yes. TBD says, too many will resort to looting and crime. You need space to raise animals. More than half the country is in the cities. That's facts. That's facts. Cat says, well said. 10 Mil says, this is a European problem, but they too weak and need America like they always have done. Positive Vibes says, I plant me a small garden and stuff going. Positive Vibes, you know you don't know a damn thing about raising chickens and planting and all that other extra stuff. But then again, Positive Vibes, you might. You might. Let me take that back. She might. Sag just says, can plant and raise chicken, but no cows. Tracy says, salute Tracy. Tracy says, my father had the right idea 50 years ago. Get some land for the family and raise our own food. Yeah. And that's where America, and in my opinion, it's not a black thing. This will not be a black thing. This will not be a white thing. This will not be a Democrat thing. This will not be a Republican thing. This will not be an immigrant thing. This will not be none of the above. This will be an America thing. And war to those other countries, they're not going to divide us. They're not going to say, okay, we're not going to hit the Democrats. They're not going to say, we're not going to hit the liberals. They're not going to say, we're not going to hit white Americans. They're not going to say, we're not going to hit immigrants. They're not going to take none of that in consideration. Their goal is to hit all us. Tim Mills says, I got a KFC near me. Positive Vibes says, yes, I do have chickens, rabbits growing up. You got rabbits too, Positive Vibes? Spoken Fact says, I actually have a small garden and people laugh at me when they see it. They don't expect it. You got a small garden, Spoken Facts? Huh? Let me see. Have Spoken Facts been roasting me? Because I got a roast for your ass, Spoken Facts, if you got a small garden. Have you been roasting me, Spoken Facts? Positive Vibes, Beautiful Nightmare, and the rest of y'all, have Spoken Facts been roasting me lately? Because if she has, I got a roast for that small ass garden that your ass got. TBD says, our enemies don't give a dang about who they hit as long as they're Americans. So as Americans, we better wise up to the game. We better smarten up to the game. War is war. So we better smarten up. A fact is a fact says, what are we talking about today? We're talking about the warheads, Russia's warheads that the United States have been tracking. Now we're going to go to the flooding that's been taking place in Miami. And Miami has a large Cuban population. And the submarines have reached Cuba. Will Warren says war is business. People make a lot of money off of war. But let's go to the flooding that's going on in South Florida. Could it be something from Russia? A fact is a fact says, yes, sir, stuff is crazy. Esther says, that's right. War is war. Take heed to the signs that we see. I can't pronounce your name, but I'm going to read your comment. As a Pole, I am grateful to America. Thanks in large part to America, Poland regained its independence and returned to the world map after 123 years. We were enslaved by the Russians and Germans. Okay, well, that's good for the Polish people. Shout out to Poland. That's good for Poland. says heavy rain leads to flash floods across South Florida. You got heavy rain, floods hammer South Florida. South Florida dealing with historic rainfall, flooding. Could that have something to do with Russia? How many of y'all think that the weather is controlled by man? A fact is a fact, says the floods look like the floods in Dubai. How many of y'all feel like man, how many of y'all feel like we can control the weather? How many of y'all think that God controls the weather? Drop a one if you think that we can control the weather. Drop a 2 if you think that God only controls the weather. Sagitt says, this why Trump wanted out of NATO. And I said, government using HARP system. Yes. 10 Mil says, my country, the UK, are doing their best to stoke this fire, but doing little and frankly unable to. Our army is a sorry state. A fact, drop the 1. Leslie dropped the 2. Redact dropped the 2. Positive dropped the 2. Spoken dropped the 1. So it's mixed feelings. It's mixed feelings. Esther says, that's the same rain that Dubai got when they made it pour down. The rain. I can't pronounce that name, but they dropped the 1. Esther dropped the 1. Because like I said, you know, and if you're in Louisiana, for everybody that's down there in Louisiana, it was alleged that they broke the lead. Y'all know I mess up a word. But what was it when Hurricane Katrina happened down in Louisiana? Remember? And it came out allegedly that they were behind the levees. Appreciate that, Sag. Remember? It came out later that they were behind the levees breaking. So TBD says, look up Top Gear and their stuff with rockets. They were able to make clouds to rain down on them. Did Russia do it? Good question. I don't know. Is it possible? Good question. Possibly. Positive Vibes said, I believe they caused Hurricane Katrina. A fact is a fact, says, into then Ed has a lot on this weather modification. Sagda says HARP system. Now, when I was growing up, I was always told that God makes it rain. God makes it snow. I was under that assumption. That's what was taught to me, that God is behind all of that. But then later on, you know, it was proven that man is actually behind some of this stuff. Leslie says, if man could control the weather, it would never be bad weather. A fact is a fact, says God does, but man is manipulating. All good answers, y'all. I appreciate all y'all answers. Let's check out the flooding that's going down there and see what we could come up with, Rock Squad. TBD says, God put everything in place for man to manipulate, either positive or negative. I do believe that. God put everything in place, and then man came along and manipulated, whether it was positive or negative, because God did give the world to man. He said it. So, but let's tap into this flooding that's taking place in South Florida, Miami.
Rain and life-threatening flooding hammering South Florida, leaving communities in Miami and Fort Lauderdale underwater.
The state's governor declaring a state of emergency for several counties as more rain is on the way. Fox 31's Talia Cunningham is tracking that threat. Talia.
Well, Erica, torrential downpours are inundating parts of southern Florida right now. Just look at all this water. Some areas seeing more than 10 inches of rain in just a matter of days. The National Weather Service calling it a tropical disturbance that's currently pushing across Florida from the Gulf of Mexico, and tonight it is wreaking havoc on residents.
Now you can hear all that heavy rain slamming the windshield of that car as the driver deals with low visibility and ponding on the highway. And take a look here. This video is coming to us tonight from Sarasota, where flooding is a major concern. This video shows a major roadway covered in water as heavy rain continues to fall tonight, making driving conditions dangerous. A few cars are trying to make their way through that road there, and you can see that one car next to that police vehicle is stuck in those high waters. Some cars were even seen floating in that area as several roads are now blocked off. Sarasota is seeing 10 inches of rain already. And this here is video in Miami-Dade where cars are plowing through inches of rain, the water reaching up to mid-tire level for many drivers. Dire warnings have been issued for areas that are now seeing life-threatening flooding. We know more than 100 water rescues have been called in as drivers are left stranded and many others distressed by this rushing water. This system is moving slowly.
Okay, because she said by this Russian water, but y'all see how I'm thinking in my mind, she mean the country Russia's water, but she just mean the water is rushing, y'all. I said, hold up, hold up, hold up. Just listen, y'all. But, well, let me backtrack. Let me backtrack. Is that what she really mean? Or do she mean Russia's water? Nah. I think she just mean the water is rushing. You heard it too, TBD? You heard it too, TBD? Like, that's why I said, hold up, let me backtrack. Listen, y'all, she gonna say the Russian water. Listen, y'all. Right, Tracy says, what a play on words. Right. Let's listen, y'all.
Rain. The water reaching up to mid-tire level for many drivers. Dire warnings have been issued for areas that are now seeing life-threatening flooding. We know more than 100 water rescues have been called in as drivers are left stranded and many others distressed by this rushing water. This is...
Y'all heard it? TBD, Aunt Esther, Tracy, y'all heard it? I gotta play it again, y'all. I gotta play it again.
Rain already. And this here is video in Miami-Dade where cars are plowing through inches of rain, the water reaching up to mid-tire level for many drivers. Dire warnings have been issued for areas that are now seeing life-threatening flooding. We know more than 100 water rescues have been called in as drivers are left stranded and many others distressed by this rushing water. This system is moving slowly through as we start hurricane season, but it has many people worried about what's to come this year.
You know, it was a substantial event. It kind of parked itself over the area, so hopefully this isn't a sign of things to come.
If this is just a small unnamed storm, I am definitely concerned to see what hurricane season holds for us.
And rightfully so, this hurricane season is predicted to be one of the most active we've seen in recent history. The flooding is causing some big travel delays tonight as well. Flights into Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International Airport.
Damn, y'all see that? Damn. Y'all see the flood? Damn.
Are being diverted and many others are canceled tonight. And this is a trend we really will see for the rest of the week, and that's because unfortunately Florida is not drying out anytime soon. This big system is expected to continue at least until Friday, dumping more rain over the Sunshine State. In studio, Talia Cunningham, Fox 31.
Wow, Rock Squad. What y'all think? What y'all think? Now, I ain't gonna be the one to twist the narrative, but what y'all think? TBD says, now that I think about it, Cuba is closer to southern Florida than Cincinnati is to Columbus, right? And, well, Florida, period, has a large Cuba population, but it's a lot of Cubans down there in Miami. SAG just says, unnamed storm. Wow, y'all. What's good, y'all? What's good, everybody? Wow. I'm just asking, could Russia be behind this flooding? What do y'all think? Could Russia be behind it? All right, we're going to go to Russian nuclear submarines docks in Cuba. Putin's warning. All right, here we go, y'all.
Now, speaking of Russia, Moscow has made a power move on the other side.
Russian warships reach Cuba. New Cuban crisis.
Now, speaking of Russia, Moscow has made a power move on the other side of the world. Yesterday, some Russian ships arrived in Cuba. Russian warships. There was one guided missile frigate, the Admiral Gorshkov. It's the lead ship of an entire class of frigates, armed with Caliber cruise missiles, Zircon hypersonic missiles, and Onyx anti-ship missiles.
That's a good question. That's a good question. A fact says, could we have caused that weather to hinder whatever Russia is trying to do? That's a good question. A fact. That's a very good question.
Arrived in the Havana port yesterday, flanked by a tugboat and a fuel ship. So a Russian frigate, armed to the teeth, docked in Cuba, a country that the US has embargoed since 1958. You heard that right, 1958, 66 years. It is the longest trade embargo in modern history. So it's safe to say that Cuba and the US aren't on good terms, and now a Russian ship has docked in Havana. It's a signal from Putin that Russia can waltz into America's backyard anytime it wants to.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Allegedly, it's a signal, it's a sign from Putin that Russia can roll up in America's backyard anytime that Russia wants.
Putin, that Russia can waltz into America's backyard anytime it wants to. And the frigate wasn't even the real message. Putin's big warning cruised in a little later, half submerged, Cuban and Russian naval flags fluttering in the wind, and a contingent of soldiers on the deck. It was a Russian nuclear-powered submarine, the Kazan. Cuba greeted the vessel with a cannon salute. The residents of Havana had lined up to get a glimpse of the ships, especially the submarine.
I saw it, a submarine, and I said, wow. And I took a picture. I have never seen a submarine in Havana in my life.
Are we ready? Americas, are we ready? Imagine, because the people in Cuba, it shocked them. Now, are we ready? Imagine a ship, imagine a Russian ship pulling up in one of our harbors. Imagine a Russia ship pulling up in the inner harbor from everybody that's from Baltimore. Are we ready? Could this be a sign? Sagan says, you ever notice how the Indian stations seem to always have the latest news? On Esther says, Putin is giving an indirect invitation for a fight. I peeped all of it. Positive Vibe says, no. On Esther says, I'm ready.
It impresses me a little because I have never seen something so close, such a large ship of that magnitude.
The Cubans were clearly impressed. But Putin isn't doing this to capture their attention. His target is a little to the north. Barely 160 kilometers away from Cuba, that is where Florida begins, which means that Putin has just sent his warships to America's doorstep. This comes weeks after an American provocation. The US recently gave Ukraine a green light. It allowed Kiev to use American weapons to strike Russian territory. Putin said that it was an escalation, and now he has responded by sending warships to Cuba. This has some Americans worried.
Hopefully this is not the beginning of something that could be unpleasant for humanity, because we are the ones in the middle. We are the ones who pay the highest price for the conflicts and disagreements that one group has with the other group, and in the end they stay safe. because they send war, and we are the ones who pay a high price.
Y al fin ellos se mantienen seguros.
Washington is trying to downplay this incident. They say this keeps happening, that Russia keeps sending ships to Cuba, which is partly true. But while Russian ships do keep going to Cuba, Moscow hasn't sent a submarine before. And this time, there's a nuclear-powered, nuclear-capable Russian submarine in Cuba. Washington says the submarine is not carrying nukes. Cuba was also quick to clarify this, which is to be expected, because this country has been in this situation before, at the frontier of a war between Washington and Moscow. I'm talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Back in 1962, Cuba was the site of a showdown between the Soviet Union and the US. The previous year, in 1961, the US had placed nuclear weapons in Italy and Turkey. It was a provocation, so the Soviet Union retaliated by preparing to place nukes in Cuba. In 1962, US spy planes captured the preparations. Washington could not have that, but they could not attack either. Instead, they decided to blockade Cuba. The Americans sent out their warships, but the Soviets blocked their path. So Soviet and American vessels were face to face, and the world was minutes away from an all-out nuclear war. Eventually, both sides backed off. That, in a nutshell, was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuba was about to be the flashpoint for a nuclear war. So this country has a symbolic importance, and now Putin has sent his warships to Havana again, including a nuclear-capable submarine, which is a loud warning to the US. Russia is telling them that its patience is running out. But will the US listen, or will it continue to egg Ukraine on?
What are y'all thoughts? Will the U.S. listen? Did y'all hear what she said? Did y'all hear what she said? Will the U.S. listen?
His warships to Havana again, including a nuclear-capable submarine, which is a loud warning to the US. Russia is telling them that its patience is running out. But will the US listen, or will it continue to egg Ukraine on? Italy's famous cuisine? Well, we are serving it.
What are y'all thoughts? What are y'all thoughts? Will the U.S. listen? Will we listen this time? You know, we always like to call people bluffs. You know? You heard it, Aunt Esther? Zach just says the only thing about nuclear, you can't use the land for 25 years. That's true. Positive says, no, Biden will not listen. See, once again, it comes back to Trump. And I know, I get it all. But y'all got to give the man some credit. We wouldn't be in this if he was in office. Now, y'all could say whatever it is y'all want to say, but one thing that I see when I look at Trump, one thing I seen a president that was confident. I don't see that when I look at Biden. When I look at Biden, at any given moment, it just looks like the man is just going to fall down. I didn't see that when I saw Trump. I saw a proud, confident man standing in front of us. A confident, solid man that made me laugh. You know, don't get it twisted now. Now, you know, but overall, they didn't play with Trump. They didn't play with Trump. Sad just says dementia. Aunt Esther says Trump about Sir's business. Is there other people that would have made a better president than Trump? Yeah. But it's Trump or Biden. We got to put Trump in there. Honestly. We're going to have to put him in there. A fact says Trump was peace through strength. He was like, But what are y'all thoughts? Do y'all think that the flooding that's going on in South Florida, could it be that we're behind it? The United States of America is behind it to ward off whatever it is that Russia got coming. Sagas says Trump about business. He was never a politician. He couldn't be bought. And that's pretty much what everybody's been saying for the longest time. You know, he wasn't a politician. He wasn't. I just don't see no strength in Biden. I don't. Let's check out some more, y'all.
It is the 11th of June 2024 and a direct confrontation between Russia and the NATO looks almost inevitable. You see, there are escalations on both the sides. Russian warships have reached Cuba. A Russian nuclear submarine has docked in Havana. Russian warplanes have reportedly crossed into NATO airspace. America has heightened vigilance, armed a dangerous far-right faction of the Ukrainian military. Also, Ukraine is upping its drone game. Belarus and Russia are carrying out nuclear exercises. There are more developments, all hinting that a bigger war may be just one mistake away.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Sagan says you need to watch your blood pressure, Shank. This is all crazy and will stress you out. Yes. Yes. OB says, why do you think he's in court in Florida? Of course, with the judge that he appointed. So it's making it harder to bring him to justice. Got worse when he stepped out because he laid. That's not good. Esther said it's about to go down. She said, we're one mistake. Did y'all peep that? She said that. We are one mistake away from war.
Of nuclear exercises. There are more developments, all hinting that a bigger war may be just one mistake away. Let's start off with what's happening in the war zone. Russia is claiming that it has taken control of one more village in Ukraine's Donetsk region. The name of this village is Staromayorsky. This is where it is on the map. There have also been strikes in other parts of Ukraine. In Kharkiv, Ukrainian rescuers managed to save a man who was buried under the rubble after Russian fire hit a residential area.
Shout out to Maria. Maria says, Ukraine is my nation. I've lived there all my life. Shout out to Maria.
Now, Russia claims it has managed to shoot down a Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet. The Kremlin also claims it has intercepted Neptune anti-ship missiles. And Ukraine, on the other hand, says it has managed to hit a Russian oil refinery. Ukrainian officials claiming the Novoshakhtinsk oil refinery in Russia's Rostov Oblast was struck on the 5th of June. Ukraine claims the attack destroyed 1.5 million tons of oil and oil products. In fact, Kiev estimates the total loss to be worth $540 million. Also, in a first, the White House has officially confirmed that Ukraine has used American weapons to hit Russian territory. Not too far from the war zone, Belarus and Russia are conducting a nuclear drill. This is the second stage of the tactical drill. Now, Russia says these drills are meant to ensure that the two countries are ready to protect their sovereignty, adding that European provocations necessitate these exercises. Remember, Russian President Vladimir Putin has not taken lightly West's decision to arm Ukraine with long-range missiles that are capable of hitting deep within Russia. During the ongoing exercises, troops from both the countries are expected to work on the combat use of non-strategic nuclear weapons.
We at war, y'all. We at war and we don't even know it. We're at war and we don't even know it. We are so comfortable as Americans. We are so comfortable. We don't even realize that we are at war. We can't even see it. We can't even see it. I'll say it again. We are at war. Because before the war can take place physically, the war starts with the mind. Before your opponent can wage war on you, your opponent has to strategize it in their mind. Before you can wage war on your opponent, before you can wage war on anyone, it has to be up here first. A fact, right. We have been at war for a long time. We just, and I seen this many years ago. I don't think it was the Afghanistanians, because y'all remember that the United States of America, we trained the Afghanistan army to defeat who? Russia, right? Right? Is everybody in agreement with that? The United States government trained the Afghanistan army to defeat Russia, right? So you know Russia just waiting. You know they waiting. Oh yeah, y'all thought we forgot. So the thoughts are already there. You have to think of it in your head. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get her. I'm going to get them. What would us as Americans, we see it all around the world. We saw it. We see it in other countries. The Palestinians, the Israelis, right? Joe Berger says America needs to stop meddling and take care of America. Right. We've seen it in the African countries, African nations. We've been seeing this for as long as I can remember, right? Positive Vibe says, waiting to get their lick back. USMC says, afternoon chat. Salute USMC. Appreciate you for pulling up. But now that it's a possibility that it might show up at our doorstep. What they say? Putin, by Putin rolling them ships to Cuba, it's a sign to show America we can roll up on y'all. We can roll up in y'all backyard anytime we want. See, America, I got to talk to you. America has been walking around with her chest on swole. Just look. Just look. So we got it in our minds that no country, we got it in our minds that no nations can come up against us. We sadly mistaken, y'all. We sadly mistaken. And the last time I checked, we aren't the most liked country around the world. Tammy says, yep. USMC says Russia won't come here right now. His military is weak. That's why he's forcing people to fight. How many of y'all think like USMC? How many of y'all think that Russia is too weak to roll up on us now? Because you got to remember, just as well as Russia's military has took a hit, the United States of America military has took a hit. Our military ain't as strong as we used to be. Sagan says in the 80s, we would have been up on them in a minute. Right, right. Tammy says unsure. Tammy says unsure. So now you got Russia. You got China. Last time I checked, we got a lot of little countries that don't like us. Esther says, I think it's 50-50. Don't ever sleep on your enemy. That's facts. You can sleep on your enemy if you want. Sagan says, USMC, thank you for your service. You can sleep on your enemy if you want. Appreciate your services, USMC. And it happens very often. A bigger opponent will sleep on a smaller opponent, right? And what happens the majority of the times when a bigger person, Debo, y'all remember Friday? Debo just knew he was going to whip Craig's ass, right? USMC says, but our numbers are way more. Plus, with the new equipment we have makes country scared. Tammy says, true story. I get it, but at the same time, are they really scared of us? Are they really scared of us? Or just like on Friday, remember on Friday, Craig ain't want to fight Debo. But Debo, I'm not going to say Debo put Craig in a predicament, but the predicament or what word am I looking for? Whatever word I'm looking for, y'all help me out. It rose up. Damn, what's that word? Maddie says you have to count China and on that too now. Right. The opportunity arose and it put Craig against Debo just off of a humble. You know what I mean? Off a humble. And a situation like that can happen. And it happens all the time. Salute Mel. Appreciate you for pulling up. Salute Mel. So we can't think like Debo. We got to think like Craig. A fact is, says our recruitment numbers are down. I am pushing 40 and have recruiters texting me every week begging me to join. Wow. But we got to get in the mind frame of Craig. We can't get in the mind frame of Debo. Debo was walking around with his chest on swole. Mel says, look at all the distractions we had. And what happened to Debo? He walked around that whole day. All that took place in one day. All that took place on Friday. And Debo walked around that whole day with his chest on swole. And what happened at the end of that day? He walked around with his chest on swole, and at the end of the day, he got his ass whipped by a much smaller opponent. Andy Maddie says Russia and China are associates. China may not have experience, but they sure have the numbers. That's facts. I want to go back to the news reporter, y'all. Let's go back to the news reporter.
And this comes at a time when a Russian nuclear submarine, along with Russian warships, have docked in Havana, Cuba. Visiting Cuba is Russian frigate Gorshkov, fleet oil tanker Pashin, the rescue tug Nikolai Chika, and nuclear-powered submarine Kazan. These ships and submarines are fitted with long-range missiles like the Caliber and Zircon that are capable of striking as far as New York,
Wow.
Washington, D.C., and Chicago.
Now, USMC, you did time in the service. Help us understand this, that these missiles can reach as far as New York. Let's listen.
Pashin, the rescue tug Nikolai Chika, and nuclear-powered submarine Kazan. These ships and submarines are fitted with long-range missiles like the Caliber and Zircon that are capable of striking as far as New York, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. America is on alert.
Did y'all hear that? America is on alert. Let me backtrack it. America is on alert.
Pashin, the rescue tug Nikolai Chika, and nuclear-powered submarine Kazan. These ships and submarines are fitted with long-range missiles like the Caliber and Zircon that are capable of striking as far as New York, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. America is on alert. U.S. media, in fact, reporting that American ships have already been deployed and tasked with shadowing the Russian warships. Reports say 2 American destroyers have been tasked into action, as have 2 other ships that tow sonar equipment. Back in Ukraine, Kiev is preparing for an offensive. This is Vadim Sukharevsky. He is Ukraine's commander of drone forces. Commander of drone forces. This is a new post that Ukraine has created, by the way, keeping in mind the changing nature of the warfare, also keeping in mind Ukraine's hits and misses. We told you just yesterday how Ukrainian drones have managed to hit one of Russia's stealth fighter jets, the Sukhoi Su-57. NATO calls it the Falcon. Ukraine managed to strike this jet on the tarmac of an airbase in the Astrakhan region. We have high-resolution images of the damage. Like we've been telling you, this is almost 600 kilometers from the front line. The question is, will it add to the growing tensions in the sea? Will Russia retaliate by striking deep into Ukrainian land? Will it become a logistics versus logistics warfare? Ukraine is already drawing up a plan for this possibility. It is drawing up a plan to secure the US-made F-16s that Kiev will be receiving from its European allies. The plan is to house some of these fighter jets in air bases outside Ukraine, meaning chances are these jets will be in a NATO hangar. But is that a foolproof plan? What if Russia does not shy away from striking a non-Ukrainian aerodrome? Just look at what Finland is claiming. It says a Russian jet violated Finnish airspace. As per Finland's defense ministry, the Russian fighter jet flew into Finland's airspace on Monday. The jet allegedly entered 2.5 kilometers into Finland's territory.
Are y'all listening? Are y'all listening? What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Coffee ready, fresh out of bed for a brighter day.
Before I go back to her, let's chop it up, Rock Squad. Let's chop it up. What are y'all thoughts? Do y'all think Russia is just calling the United States bluff. Drop a one. Drop a one if y'all think Russia is just calling the United States bluff. They just sending wolf tickets. Drop a two. Drop a two if y'all think Russia is about that life. Drop a two if y'all think Russia is ready. Drop a one if y'all think Russia is just bullshitting. Drop a two if y'all think Russia is ready. And remember, everything that you hear is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Tammy dropped the two. USMC dropped the one. Danielle dropped the two. And a big shout out to everyone, man and woman. Shout out to all men and women that served in our military. Shout out to everybody that served in the military. Doesn't make a difference what branch. Shout out to everyone that served in our military. Our hats have to go off to you guys. I mean, BT says, as of now, we are shadowing these vessels hard. I can't pronounce, subs and destroying following. This could get ugly. This could get ugly. We got to think about our babies. We got to think about our grandkids. We got to really think. For the men, we got to think about our women. Men, we got to think about each other. This could get ugly. It could get ugly. It could get ugly. And it doesn't make a difference whether we are stronger military-wise. None of that makes a difference when you at war. Somebody got to win. Somebody got to lose. USMC says, I did 7 combat tours, and I can honestly say the U.S. is definitely ready. I have 2 sons in the Marines now. Okay, well, being as though you served in the military and you did time and you got sons that's in there, that's nice to know. That's nice to hear. Now, USMC says, we ready. He says we ready. How many others think we ready? BT says Russia announced intentions to install joint missile systems in Mexico along the border. I just don't trust it. USMC, I just don't trust it. I don't trust Russia because let's look at Russia side. Now, back in the 80s, and correct me if I'm wrong, back in the 80s, Russia was the powerhouse. Remember? The Soviet Union. I believe the USSR. Remember, in the 80s, Russia was the powerhouse, right? In a million years, Russia didn't expect for little old Afghanistan. Y'all follow me? I'm sure in a million years, Russia didn't imagine little old Afghanistan defeating them. But it happened. Saga says, Shank, we ain't got no choice. Do y'all think if Trump gets in there, do y'all think Trump will be able to call it off? What are y'all thoughts? USMC says, and Russia had this exercise planned with Cuba. If you notice, Russia didn't come out of international water. That's why we sent ships near them just in case. Okay, good point, USMC. Positive Vibe says, only ready for what can be seen, but what about the unseen? Look up the submarine in Cuba. That surprised them. And that's facts, Positive Vibes. Sagan says, I got full confidence in our military, but not our government. Danielle says, does the U.S. have an Iron Dome? I don't think so, Danielle. I don't think so. But let's go back to more of the news reporter, y'all.
The airspace violation reportedly happened in the eastern. The Russian fighter jet flew into Finland's airspace on Monday. The jet allegedly entered 2.5 kilometers into Finland's territory. What's more, the Russian military jet stayed in Finland's airspace for about 2 minutes. The airspace violation reportedly happened in the eastern part of the Gulf of Finland. This is the first such airspace violation since Finland became a NATO member, which means if Finland's claims are correct, what you essentially have here is Russia entering NATO airspace, and that is dangerous, that is provocative. Speaking of which, let me tell you what America has done. It has armed a faction of the Ukrainian armed forces that Russia brands as neo-Nazis. The US has lifted weapon sanctions that were imposed on the Azov Brigade. This is a unit of the Ukrainian military with quite a checkered history. The Azov Brigade started off as a militia that was absorbed into the Ukrainian National Guard in 2015. This unit is accused of human rights violations by the United Nations, which is why Washington had banned the Azov Brigade from using American arms. But now, as the war escalates, Washington has pulled a swift U-turn. The State Department has said, and I'm quoting here, after thorough review, Ukraine's 12th Special Forces Azov Brigade passed Leahy vetting as carried out by the US Department of State. What is the Leahy vetting? The Leahy law prevents the US from militarily assisting foreign units that are guilty of human rights violation. So what the US is basically saying now is that the Azov Brigade is not guilty of human rights violation, that Washington has found, quote unquote, no evidence. What gives? Perhaps the desperation to defeat Russia at all costs. You see, the Azov Brigade has proved to be very effective in the war. It fought hard to defend the Azovstal steel mill in Mariupol. This was in the early months of the war. The battle went in favor of Russia, but the strong front put up by the Azov Brigade did not go unnoticed. And now, as the war escalates, the US has decided to give the Azov Brigade full access to its cache of weapons. And here is how Russia has reacted to this. Listen to this.
Крайне негативно. Речь идет о ультранационалистах, ультранационалистических вооруженных подразделениях. И, собственно, такая внезапная смена позиции Вашингтона говорит о том, что они никем не гнушаются в своих попытках подавить Россию. Подавить Россию, используя, естественно, Украину и украинский народ в качестве инструмента в своих руках.
So what you have here is escalation from both the sides, leaving ample scope for a fatal miscalculation. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WeOn app.
What y'all thinking? What are y'all thinking? I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't trust it, y'all. Danielle says U.S. isn't ready for sure. Sadgus says just like we don't have a HARP system. Danielle says HARP is definitely real. USMC says think about this. Look at what Ukraine is doing to Russia with not even a quarter of what we have. Also, you see Russia has been talking about the West. Better not help, but we do. Putin is all talk went in. That's a good point now. That's a good point. For Russia to be struggling with Ukraine, I will say that's a good point, USMC. USMC says, come to the U.S. As you see, we keep sending weapons, and he does nothing. That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm not going to hold y'all that much long. I got one more clip. that I want to play for y'all. I'm not going to hold y'all that much longer. Let me get to this clip.
Now, this provocative action, it has heightened tensions, drawing parallels to the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1960.
Tammy says, anyone remember the movie Salt? That movie made me think, what if that could really be going on? And let's not give our enemies any ideas. Right. I just, like I said, y'all, because I know I've seen it, and I'm sure y'all know and y'all seen it. Even though someone may be stronger or people may be strong. Rome, y'all remember? Rome was defeated. Rome was defeated. John Paul says, Matthew 24:27, make no mistake, God warned us. Rome was defeated. See, that's my only thing. We got to stop walking around with our chest on swole, meaning can't nobody defeat you. Can't nobody beat you. Can't nobody touch you. You got to stop that. As Americans, we have to stop that. And you got to study history. You got to study all nations. There were many great nations. Many great nations. But guess what? They all met their demise. They all fell. Come on. Think of all the many different African nations. Just think. Think of all these great nations that was defeated. Think of all the great warriors that got defeated. Just think of all the great basketball teams, all the great football teams. Just think of Mike Tyson. Nobody thought Buster Douglas was going to beat Mike Tyson, because if you went by the numbers, if you went by the statistics, Mike was a better fighter, right? Mike was a better jabber. Mike was a better this. Mike was a better everything. Mike had Buster Douglas beat in every category. Danielle says, what's going to fall this time? You think? I think so. Who's going to fall? I think it's going to be the United States, y'all. USMC says, you also have to remember we have Russia surrounded. We are the only country that has military bases in other countries. We can deploy quicker than any other country. Now, that's true. That's true. But back to my Mike Tyson demonstration. Y'all remember, nobody thought Mike Tyson was going to lose that fight. You're right. America isn't known for being humble, my man. And that's all I'm saying. You know, and Mike Tyson, what happened? Mike Tyson had a bad day. Buster Douglas had a better day than Mike Tyson. It can happen, and it can happen to the best of us. I'm going to run this last clip, and then I'm going to let y'all get out of here. Danielle says, our military is stretched too thin to protect us here at home. I'm going to give y'all this last clip, and I'm going to let y'all get out of here.
by deploying nuclear-capable submarines in America's backyard.
Now, this provocative action, it has heightened tensions, drawing parallels to the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. Here's a report which explains why the West is to be equally blamed for the inflaming tensions here.
The world watched in horror as the Cuban Missile Crisis nearly plunged the planet into nuclear war in 1962. Now, decades later, tensions are at a boiling point once again, with Russia sending a nuclear-powered submarine to Cuba, America's backyard. The Russian naval group, including the frigate Gorshkov and nuclear-powered submarine Kazan. Admiral Gorshkov is the first Russian Navy warship to operationally deploy the new Zircon hypersonic cruise missiles. The Russian flotilla will visit the port of Havana between June 12 and 17. Cuba, a key ally of the former Soviet Union during the Cold War, insists that none of the ships carry nuclear weapons and that their stopover does not represent a threat to the region. However, the strategic message Moscow is sending is clear and loaded with implications. The latest Russian deployment near Cuba comes amid escalating tensions between Moscow and the West over the war in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced the deployment of weapons close to Western nations. Now, Russia's state TV has aired a map showing locations including Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, and Yemen, where Putin plans to send missiles. Moscow's aggressive stance follows NATO countries' decision to send military aid to Ukraine, including long-range missiles and authorized strikes within Russian territory. Ukraine claims that for the first time it hit a latest generation Sukhoi 57 fighter jet at an airbase inside Russia. As NATO continues to supply Ukraine with increasingly potent weapons, including the authorization of strikes within Russia, Putin seems to be determined to match escalation with escalation. The world watches, hoping that, like in 1962, cooler heads will prevail. But in this new era of brinkmanship, the margin for error is perilously thin. Bureau Report, WION. World is one.
What I would say is that we were rather surprised at the performance of the hypersonic missiles that the Russians had employed. And we were surprised because they were not just effective in terms of speed, but they were unstoppable and they were accurate and precise. So we know now that they have an arsenal of hypersonic missiles that are very lethal and very effective. They're all carrying high-end explosive conventional warheads, but obviously some of them could carry a nuclear warhead if necessary.
You say unstoppable, you mean that literally?
Yes, in other words, let's put it this way. We have a wonderful set of missiles. We call them Standard missiles. The Standard Missile 3 developed by the Navy is brilliant, and it will shoot down a hypersonic missile if the missile's path is predictable. In other words, if you know that the incoming missile is going to follow a precise trajectory, you can coordinate and calculate the intercept. The problem is that the hypersonic missiles the Russians are employing do not always follow a precise trajectory that is predictable. As a result, if it's not predictable, you can't hit it. It's just moving too quickly. Thus far, President Putin has exercised enormous restraint. Thus far, he's held 300,000 Russian combat troops in reserve. He's kept only the forces necessary forward in defensive positions. He has held troops in reserve also in Belarus. And he has allowed the Ukrainians, simply because it worked to his advantage, to destroy themselves in attack after attack after attack. The Ukrainians have now effectively run out of manpower. They have almost nothing left. Every time they talk about having broken through somewhere or advanced, it's been a lie, completely untrue, carried by all the Western news media. So at this point in time, the Ukrainians are turning exclusively to long-range strike weapons that they can get from the British and us and potentially the Germans and French. And we saw that there were 11 Storm Shadow missiles fired by the Ukrainians against Russian targets. Of the 11, 3 managed to escape destruction. The other 8 were shot down by the integrated air defenses. And those found targets in the harbor in Sevastopol. At the same time, the British provided unmanned underwater systems, in other words, underwater drones or surface drones to attack the harbor from the ocean side. Those things had an effect. They effectively destroyed a submarine. That submarine is probably not going to be repaired. It'll probably be effectively junked. And then 2 other surface ships that probably will be repaired in time, although there's no repair facility in the Black Sea for them. But the truth is, this war is not going to be won or lost on the basis of attacks on the harbor in Crimea. It's not going to be won or lost on the basis of any long-range attacks on targets inside Russia. It's going to be won or lost on the ground in Ukraine. The question now is, will the Russians finally say enough is enough? We can't go on anymore. We have to end this ourselves and act. That's the question.
Do you have a feel for how much longer this goes on?
I think this could go on to Christmas. It could even drag into next year unless the Russians act. They have the force, they have the capability, the Ukrainians have nothing to stop them. And they know that this will not end until they go to the Dnieper River and cross it. They're going to have to cross that river. They're going to eventually have to take Odessa, and they're going to have to enter Kiev. I've had more than one Russian general quoted to me by sources on the ground over there say, this war will not end until our tanks are driving down the main street of Kiev. So I think they understand that. The problem is that President Putin is concerned about 2 things. Number one, he doesn't want to do something that he thinks will precipitate U.S.-led intervention in Western Ukraine. He does not want a war with us. He doesn't want a war with NATO. Secondly, he wants to end this war in a way that will allow everybody to eventually do business together. In other words, put the war behind us and get on with normal life. He's trying very hard to avoid the kind of destructive action that would make that impossible. We, on the other hand, are doing everything in our power to make sure there can never be any sort of normal relationship between the United States and Europe and Russia. He doesn't stand that. And that's what most of his commanders in the field know. And their view is, if you want to stop these long-range strikes, then let us go. Let us attack. And let us crush these Ukrainians once and for all.
Colonel McGregor, thank you very much. Over the weekend, we hit 200,000 subscriptions on this show, in large measure because of all of your generous, informed, and so well-received appearances. Thank you again for all your time, Colonel. We'll see you again soon.
John Paul says $12 trillion worth of resources in Ukraine, USA, and Russia both want it. Europe needs it. And for USMC says, you know what else makes it where no country will come here? That's too many Americans with guns. So not only do you have our military, but you had civilians with guns. USMC Saget says exactly. I'm hoping you're right. I'm hoping you're right. Danielle says guns aren't going to stop missiles. Now that's true. That's true. I'm hoping you're right. I'm hoping you're right. Because win, lose, or draw, we got to keep this in mind. Win, lose, or draw, nobody benefits from the war as far as the civilians, as far as the people, the common people. None of us will benefit. Now, the powers to be, they might benefit, but none of us, and especially Americans, but all across the world, the casualties, you understand what I'm saying? It's the casualties. So we're all going to lose some casualties. Best believe it's going to be a lot of casualties on both sides. So whether we defeat them or not, we're going to lose casualties. There are going to be casualties. And I just don't think that no country is ready for casualties. No country. Salute, Randall. Salute. We're not ready for casualties. I know for a fact, America, I know on our side, we ain't ready for casualties. You got to keep in mind, Russia, they already in a war. They already over there with, what do you say, 350,000 casualties since the war started? 350,000 dead or alive casualties? Now, we haven't had one casualty yet. Imagine when we start to have casualties. So the common people, if war break out today or tomorrow, the common people like you and I, we are the ones that are going to lose the battle because we're going to be the ones that's going to have to bury our dead. So I want y'all to think about that. Make sure y'all follow me in the comments section when I end this demonstration. I want to see all of y'all in the comments section when I end this demonstration. All right. I appreciate everybody for pulling up. Once again, my hat goes off to every man and woman that served in the military. I really appreciate y'all. We all appreciate y'all. I appreciate everybody for pulling up, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Remember, follow me in the comments section when I end this demonstration. Salute, everybody.